When I decided to play Everdeep Aurora, I thought it would be like other similar looking games that I've played, mainly Spelunky and Hollow Knight. I'm sure some would be happy to hear that while there are similarities between these games, Everdeep Aurora ends up being its own thing. There were pros and cons to that, but overall, I'd say that I would have thought better of EA had its gameplay been more polished. It's because part of what initially stood out to me about EA and throughout the game was its visuals. EA is a very atmospheric and visually appealing game. It makes sense, seeing how most of the game takes place underground, and it would be boring if it were plain to look at. EA made this part appealing to experience because of its frequent use of color scheme changes. I'm sure that there are multiple reasons as to why this was utilized, but chances are that it was to be able to differentiate new areas/levels of the underground. Sometimes this was seen because of moving from one nearby area to the next, but in general, it was meant to add to the feeling of deep exploration and progression. Progression and digging deeper into the underground were a big part of what EA had to offer. The problem is that it was a little hard to get started. It was cool being able to drill where I wanted, but more than once I found myself thinking, where am I supposed to go to progress? Chances are that stumbling into things and not having your hand held is part of the charm, but it didn't help that there were times where I felt that even if the sense of exploration was there, it was lacking when it came to the sense of discovery. Simply put, the exploration wasn't always as rewarding as I thought it would be. This led to me finding it hard to get momentum rolling and keep it that way. When I was able to, that's when EA was most enjoyable. Unfortunately, there were moments when playing through EA and wanting to beat it felt more like a chore than something I was doing for enjoyment. Side quests being part of EA helped spice things up every now and then, especially because of how they connected to each other. For example, needing to gather water for someone in a secret garden, then leading to being given flowers that could be given to a woman that wanted to give flowers to her daughter. Looking back, I'm not entirely sure if these were full-on side quests or segments of the main storyline. Alongside simply being able to gain a sense of satisfaction from having completed these quests, sometimes this led to me being able to find different costume accessories. It's cool that the option to customize my character's avatar, which was cute already anyways, but it also bummed me out when I was hoping to find a needle in a haystack, so as to keep progressing, only to find something else. It also didn't help that some of the accessories stood out for wrong reasons. There were a couple that went hand in hand with the base character avatar, but there were others that just seemed to float alongside the avatar rather than appearing to be worn by it. That's just me nitpicking, but if the point is to spice up the base character avatar, you would think that it would be done in such a way that it wouldn't distract or take away from the neutral look. I checked some of the accessories out, but I preferred keeping the neutral look. At this point, it's clear to me that my expectations for EA weren't met. I thought it'd be more like a typical Metroidvania with a lot of gameplay to offer. I reached a point with EA where I wasn't expecting that, so when I saw elements of more Metroidvanias pop up here and there, I was pleasantly surprised. The thing is that these moments eventually left me feeling like a lot more could have been done with EA. It was cool being able to find a power-up that let me wall jump, even if I couldn't use it continuously, but these moments were few and far between. It was towards the end that I had to solve puzzles with buttons, something that would have been nice to have spread throughout EA. It's a small detail, but I liked being able to easily move boxes. If this had been approached more traditionally, it would have just been another thing to deal with when trying to get to hard-to-reach places, like with some of the box puzzles in Resident Evil 1996. Everdeep Aurora wasn't a bad game. It had a lot to offer when it came to its visual offerings and well-crafted atmosphere. The problem is that I was left wanting more from what was established. The ending pretty much encapsulates that by coming off as anticlimactic. There was no final boss fight, reveal of big monsters that had been hinted at sporadically, or meeting with the main character's mother, the main goal of Everdeep Aurora. It's possible that all these things could be experienced, and I just got a bad or neutral ending, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I'd have to retry specific moments and see if they lead to different outcomes, but I don't feel motivated to do that. It might sound a bit strange, but Everdeep Aurora is like a walking simulator in 2D form. There's plenty to experience and do, but I was left wanting more. If the idea of a more chill Hollow Knight appeals to you, give Everdeep Aurora a try. What are some games that didn't meet your expectations? How do you feel about games that are more about the journey than the destination? What kept you playing a game that left you wanting to move on from it? If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching.